the Witch Movie Project.
Ooh, I'm still not used to that spooky violin and that witch laughing and all that. Courtney, we're back though. The Witch Movie Project, episode 2.
Yep. Awesome.
Can't
wait.
Are you excited for this one?
Oh yeah. These were new movies to me, so I am thrilled.
And I was pumped to toss you these 2 movies. I am super, super excited. So let's just get into it. Let's go to this episode. Let's get to these 2 movies, Courtney. Now,
Yeah.
where do you start on these movies? Other than, I've got the red on, you've got the green going. We already got
green
the color.
light.
I love it. Like, we got the colors on deck. We're talking about Suspiria. 1977.
Talk about horror movies.
These 2 right here. Where do we start? Because first of all, the 1977 movie by Dario Argento was a masterpiece, first of all, I will say, but it was violent. So people did not really take to it. It even sent Dario, it sent him on a deep, dark path almost to lead to suicide. Like, that's how bad this took a toll on the people around them. What were your initial thoughts on the first Suspiria?
Well, I do remember at one point, and this was later in the movie when I was watching, we were probably closer to the end, but my dad walked in and he walked through the living room while we're watching. And I said to him, Dad, were all the movies from the 70s just like super weird? And he just goes, yeah, yep. And then he just walked out of the room. I was like, I am all caught up in this whole like otherworldly, kind of trippy, colorful Alice in Wonderland sort of vibe, right?
Yes. So that color scheme is on purpose. Now, Dario Argento actually filmed Suspiria to look like an acid trip. That's why you see the wavy stuff. He uses some Technicolor, a modded Technicolor, basically, that for your people out there who know all that technical terms, basically it made it look distorted. It made things off. That paired with a Grammy Award performance from the Goblins. That's the soundtrack to this entire thing. A band called the Goblins. Now it's got this eerie, ethereal, whatever kind of sound you want to say, but it's unsettling. There's whispers in there. There's all this weird stuff going on. They actually filmed that score for this movie before the movie was filmed. So they had the score for the movie. And what Dario did, what the people on the set did, they would blast that Goblin's score while people were acting and stuff. So it was unsettling at all times. What you think about that music?
Yeah, I kept asking Matt, my husband, because he's a percussionist and he knows instruments a little bit. I was like, what does that sound? Is it like a didgeridoo or like, what is this wah wah sound and these African drumming? I mean, it's just all kind of it's unsettling because you don't know what it is. It's almost like it's not music, but I looked up the Greek instrument, a bouzouki. I'm not sure how you say it, but that was in some of the weird sounds that you're hearing. It's like a kind of obscure, you don't hear it very often, instrument.
Now, that's great knowledge right there. Now, so you're saying that's what the Goblins were playing there? They were playing,
a Greek instrument.
Did they invent that themselves? Because
you would think I've never heard it before. Right? It really is that unsettling. Like it's almost like when people play the saw and they have that wah sound to it, and it's like Or the theremin. The theremin, the thing that you do with your hands. Have you ever seen one of those? Very making
weird.
Like thunder sounds and distorted kind of Yeah.
We'll put some of that in right now. We'll weave some of that in underneath. Let's get to the beginning of the movie though, because we'll start with the 1977 version.
Yeah.
You've got Susie Bannion. That's your lead character here, Susie Bannion, played by Jessica Harper, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Who makes a cameo in the newer one.
she does. She does. I love that cameo also. It's a great one to catch. We'll get to that one. But Susie arrives in Germany. It's stormy. So the atmosphere, the mood's already set. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is not going good. She gets in a taxi cab. As she gets to the academy though, it's already something weird going on because a girl comes running out. That's Pat. We find
Yeah.
out later it's Pat. So
Yeah.
already from the get, and this is less than 10 minutes in. We're already kind of looking around. We're thinking, what's going on? Then the murder. That
Yeah.
murder.
And there's like some foreshadowing. They kind of I noticed they like to do this a lot in the movie. They stop on a frame and show something or even come back to it and show it several times. It was kind of a, an era type thing, 1970s movies. It's like it makes you question like, why are we looking at this window several times? Like, why are
Yes.
we looking at this thing that seemingly has nothing to do with anything? It was kind of foreshadowing what was going to happen to Pat. Yeah.
Now, that what you're describing there, that's called giallo. This is a genre of movie called giallo style. It's Italian. I believe Dario Argento was one of the main ones for it. Mario Bava, Lucio Fulci, they all did this. Now, during the 70s, giallo style, which giallo is Italian for yellow. That's what it means. So yellow is,
Oh.
yeah. So that was a pulp novel series from Giallo Mondadori in the 1920s. And that's what all of these quick shots and these real close, you see the eyeballs and you see all these crazy shots. That's what it is. And it was used to kind of distort, and it was to add to the murder mystery. They also included elements of this in all slasher, thriller, psychological horror movies, which this falls into all those categories. But they made this popular. The 2018 film has some of this in there. It has some of the giallo style treatment. It has the shots, the close-ups, the quick shots. But then there's also these in this 1977 and both films. There's also these long, drawn-out shots that are unsettling in their own, because you're like, I'm used to these choppy chops, and then all of a sudden, why am I on this one shot down the hallway for 30 seconds?
Or this like little detail for an extra long amount of time, and we weren't sure if that was like just because of the era that it was filmed or if it was a style. We kept joking about it because we're like, oh, we're gonna look at this, one thing for 20 minutes now or something like that.
Yeah, exactly,
we were having
right?
fun with it while we were watching it.
Now, let's talk about the murder scene right from the beginning. This is when Pat and her friend they get brutally murdered, and I do mean brutal. That was done on purpose to disturb, and it did. Back in the 70s, when this thing was released in 77, that was the most disturbing murder scene, and to this day, maybe one of the most disturbing murder scenes in a movie ever.
Yeah. It was pretty shocking even for like the time period. I'm like, oh, I don't know older movies very well, but wondering how far they were going to take it, how far they were going to, show blood and bodies and cutting throats and all the things. But I did take note that in the bathroom, before she's murdered, she's in the bathroom, the artwork on the wall is Sky and Water by M.C. Escher, which is it's like a optical illusion. It looks like fish coming, a bunch of fish, and then they turn into geese. So it's like flight and water. It's a famous piece of art, but it's supposed to be kind of an optical illusion. And there was a lot of like Art Deco style, 1920s style in this movie, particularly. So
It sucks you in. It really
something
sucks
to
you
know.
in.
Yeah.
The
Kind of nothing is quite what you think it's going to be vibe is what that's telling me. I don't know if
yeah,
that was on purpose, but I think everything's on purpose.
it
So,
definitely was. It definitely is on purpose, and then also you can actually see Dario himself in the mirror
mhm.
reflection as the hands that is killing the victim here. That's on purpose too. He mentioned later on. Is it really? Maybe. I think it was. I think it was because it was almost like he put his signature in an iconic scene and he knew what he was doing. I don't think he did anything by accident. So I fully believe that.
Right.
We
Yeah.
get to Susie's first day at the academy. It's weird.
Hmm.
It's already weird. Like it's she meets Madame Blanc and she meets Miss Tanner, and there's just strange stuff. And then what? Somebody fainted during the rehearsal. Eerie.
Yeah.
There's you could tell there's
Yeah. A
something
lot of
going.
things are happening to Susie. Like she's getting nauseous and she's kind of feeling warped. She's walking down halls and it like almost funhouse kind of vibes. Like she's, not walking straight and kind of bumping into walls and doesn't feel
Yeah.
well. Yeah. I wrote down, because it was at the beginning and it was the ballerina school, or dance school. I wrote down, Black Swan vibes.
Yes.
Like, the movie Natalie Portman, it's like how kind of trippy or like things are odd and you can't quite put your finger on why. And it has something to do with the art of dance, right?
Yes. Yes. No, that's a good take right there. And I did get Black Swan vibes. That's a great movie too. I mean, that's an Oscar winner there, I believe. So
Yeah.
we're only 30 minutes deep into the movie though, and it's it's a weird watch up until this point. It's a weird watch, and you're trying to get your
Yeah.
honestly, as a viewer, you're trying to get your footing. Like you're trying to find out what the fuck am I looking at? Like honestly, like that's what it is. And
Yeah.
then
It really takes you like your Susie coming from a regular average world. She comes from the
yeah,
airport. She's in a taxi cab. But like when she gets to the dance studio, everything's bright colors, like that Art Deco. But it almost feels like everything's also a stage.
yeah,
Did you get that too? Like it was on purpose made to look like it was a set. Like it wasn't real stairs, wasn't real buildings. It was just almost felt like it was even Pat, when she sees Pat running through the woods, it's like a strobe light.
yeah,
That was really cool. I liked that
yeah.
effect that they did.
That's in both movies, I believe, right? The kind of that glow, that
Strobe
almost
light.
like that I call it it was the Donnie Darko when he had the thing coming out. It's the Donnie Darko glow, but it was uh
Oh
more of a
yeah.
psychedelic version of the Donnie Darko uh
See that? Yeah.
beam of whatever came out of his chest. So Suspiria. So Susie moves into Olga's apartment, and then this is when weird stuff starts happening too. She's counting the steps. She's figuring out. Wait a minute, that doesn't go there. That is, something's weird going on, but we still don't know what.
Yeah. Well, there was something that happened before she goes. Oh, I'm trying to remember what it was. The conversation between the dancers when she's borrowing shoes,
Yes.
and there was this little conversation. So when I found out later that this was written about a boarding school, like the story that it was taken from was a boarding school with young girls.
Yeah.
And later when I found that out, I was like, oh, now I get why the script was written that way, because there was this moment where these dancers were teasing each other and she's like, oh, your name is S, like a snake. You're Susie and you're Sarah and you're like a snake. And then the girls are hissing at each other and it's really weird. Like
And
we're all kind of watching this like, what? This is weird. And Susie's watching it like, this is weird. And it turns out that was supposed to be like little girls like that's why it seemed so juvenile. It was little girls talking instead of like grown women, the dancers. But I thought
Exactly.
it was really important because I was like, there's already this weird vibe going on where you're like, why are grown women talking to each other this way?
No, but you're definitely onto something there because it's absolutely true. Salvatore Argento, that's Dario's father. He's the one that axed down and said, "Nope, you cannot use young girls because it was written for young girls." So they had to cast higher. They couldn't do this with young girls because of how violent. Could you imagine this movie
I
with
know.
like 12-year-old girls in there instead of dancing? Like that have been, oh my
Yeah.
god! Like they'd had to put these guys in jail. Salvatore and Dario would have had to go in jail. The Argento family. You got Salvatore. You got Dario. You got Mike Argento out in Toluca Lake doing his thing. That's a plug for a buddy of mine I used to work with. His last name was Argento. Is Argento. He's still around. Now, back to this though. They did have to cast older, but Dario did not rewrite the script. So that's why
Yes.
all the dialogue is childish. It even goes a little bit further because if you really pay attention, the doorknobs on all the doors, they're at a height
Yeah.
that they have to reach up. So it gives these girls this childlike features when they're of age. So it's
Yeah.
a weird line that they kind of walked there. But yeah, that's a great find. Look at you, Courtney. Look at you finding it.
Well, I did think the conversation was already odd. And so later I was like, oh, when you think about it as little girls saying this to each other, that makes sense. But grown women being like, you're a snake. Your name starts with S. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess.
That's mean, or is
Weird,
it?
but all right.
So what's next? You got oh my god. Now you got a disgusting scene in here too. The maggots falling from the ceiling. Like
Yes. That's enough right there to send me running from the theater. That's enough right there. I was like,
I think
ew.
this was disgusting. This was not something that you want to see. Yeah, and it was people. It was some of the crew sprinkling rice down onto the girls acting, but still, it makes you.
They do close-up shots, and when you find the food in the attic that's gone bad and it's just covered in maggots, it's a really graphic scene. Like it's, it may not be blood and gore yet, but it was like enough to make me cringe and like have to check myself to make sure I didn't have bugs crawling on me.
Oh yeah, now let's talk about the men that we see. Now you have Daniel. We haven't even talked about these characters yet. You got Daniel, who is he's the blind piano player.
Yep.
And then you have, what's the other guy's name there? The butler guy, I guess.
Yeah.
He was honestly, I know he was a local person that Dario found and loved him, so he put him in the movie. And so that was the other guy that was
yeah,
the I guess a butler. I don't know what he was, but
yeah, he's kind of got Igor going on, like the kind of, I don't know, assistant who's just a little creepy and a little bit, not very talkative.
Not at all. I don't think he says anything. So, but Daniel though.
Yeah. Yeah, he has his German Shepherd, which I laughed and I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, so this is in Germany. We have to have a German Shepherd. And that caused me to look up what is the most common dog breed in Germany. And it's actually Chihuahua. So, little fun fact for you about Germany.
I love that. Now we need, so Chihuahuas in Germany, huh?
Yeah, not German Shepherds. But I thought, isn't that a little cliche? Like we have this, this guy has a seeing eye dog, but it's German Shepherd. It becomes important. So It's all right.
Yeah, he's walking this dog. This is after he gets cast out of the dance studio. Now let's go to that part. Because they cast him, or actually, yeah. What did he gets mad and then he leaves. How did this even go down? Because I don't even remember this because of what happens next.
Yeah. Well, was there something between? I think I missed it. I think I must have like stepped out of the room or something for a second because Matt, my husband, was watching it with me, and he said the dog did something to the little boy, and they got mad at him and they kicked him out or something.
See, I don't
have to
remember
watch
what
the third time to find out.
Right? I can't remember what happened right there either. But when he's walking his dog at night,
Yeah.
it's just you know something's about to happen.
Yeah, and they keep doing that close up of the building, like those shots that feel like what's going on. They are showing these buildings around him and the statues on the buildings like for a long time. Like not quick shots, but like long shots.
You're just waiting. You're waiting, and the anticipation's growing, and you know where he is? He's in Königsplatz, which is in Germany. Now, that is a historical place because that's where Hitler and the Nazis made. Where Hitler had some of his most hated words coming out of his mouth. Most hatred is in that very spot. So, sure, there's some undertones here from Dario and whatever about fascism and all that. But this is
it's real subtle though. Not like the newer 2018 one, which really directly included historical things like the Holocaust and the Berlin Wall and the war and things going like they brought it right into the movie, very like in your face. But I think it was like a subtle nod. It wasn't like a main part of the movie, but they must have like, we want to put that in and have that be recognizable, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it was like, it's menacing. And at that time, it was even more fresh in people's minds. So when you saw that, like you knew, you're like, oh, that's some evil shit went on right there, you know? So
right. Yeah.
Words spewed full of hate came from there, you know? Like it was not a good place. And yeah, Daniel meets his demise right here. He's done. He gets done in.
Yeah. Really, really nice and graphic too. They don't show the body, but when they show the dog eating, it's pretty. I'm like, ugh. Like your imagination can fill in the blanks. You know what's going on there. You're like, ah.
Just brutal once again. And
so it's a good thing they didn't have a Chihuahua because they needed the German Shepherd for this scene, right?
Could you imagine a Chihuahua eating Daniel instead? It would have been a long scene. It'd have been a longer scene. That'd have been. So we're starting to at the dance studio with Susie, Sarah. They're starting to investigate all the secrets. They're starting to figure out stuff. Sarah meets her demise. Like there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a high body count for a movie here. Not sure how many, but there's quite a few that drop. Unforeseen.
Yeah, I mean, definitely would be noticeable when you're thinking about like, okay, Pat runs from this dance studio. She's dead, and they're pretty open about it. They're like, "Yep, Pat died. The authorities are involved. Super sad." And then they're like, "Oh, and that guy, the blind guy, the piano player, he died. Super sad." Like they know what's going on, so they're telling that. And like you would think if you were one of the students, a new student, you'd be like, that's kind of a lot of people died."
Right? Like, it's a pretty good sign that, we should probably steer clear of this place, that
something's up.
It could happen to me. Like, that would be my thought. It's like, hey, why are people disappearing around here? Now,
yeah, and Sarah's death was very interesting because they said that was the one in the facts about the movie that she was actually hurt doing that scene. They only did it in one take, but I don't think anyone realized how hard it would be on her or how much it would hurt to jump into a room full of wires.
Yeah, right? Like, sounds like a great idea. It's me, but no.
Yeah, they took the barb out of it, so it wasn't barbed wire.
She still got poked,
Thankfully.
though. She was still getting poked by something. So, yeah, that's a great takeaway from that, because she went through the pain for our pleasure, you know? Like, that's what it was.
Our favorite part of that scene was the picking the lock.
Oh, yeah.
She's waiting in the room and she's trapped and she doesn't know what to do. And she sees the window. She's going to climb like up some boxes. But this whole scene takes a while. Like, she's in this room and it keeps cutting to the lock. And it's just one of those locks that all you'd have to do is push it up. And the person picking the lock has like a knife and is trying to pick the lock. Yep. And it's just like, oh, not quite. Oh, oops. Not quite. Oh, and I wrote down what Matt said. He's like, this limp dick trying to pick the lock here.
Best description you can have right there. That's absolutely it.
I'm like, it needs to build suspense. And so whoever it is, they just aren't good at it. They're just not quite getting that. Not quite.
So after this, after Sarah is chased and killed, then this is when it all comes to light. This is when we find out they're witches, basically. Like these, and we're not talking about your friendly neighborhood witches here. We're talking about the dark, the evil, whatever. What would you call them, types of witches? What are these?
Well, they're what folklore would have you believe witches are, which is they are needing these human sacrifices to power themselves. You know, the dance studio is basically, or the dance school is kind of a front for them to be able to perform these rituals and to have human sacrifices or human girls to power their youth and their rejuvenation and their, you know, it's the old folklore that witches eat children, basically.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay. So is that what it really is then? Is that what this is an interpretation of that? Because here's the thing too. I know that we haven't really gotten into the three mothers yet of what the witches really are. So, you know, should we do that? Should we get into the three witches now?
Yeah. And that would be like maybe my only, well, I do like to poke fun, but it would be my only criticism of this movie in the 1977 version is that I don't think they go far enough in explaining that or to give that folklore its due diligence because you kind of miss it. Like you kind of gloss over it. And then he does have this be one of the trilogy so that the three mothers are represented in the movies. But even when she goes to talk to the psychiatrist, which we'll talk about maybe in a minute, but he kind of tries to relate to her, the story, or where Madame Marquis or the who is Mother Suspirium, where she maybe comes from, and the tale of the three witches. And I feel like it was just kind of glossed over. It wasn't really made to be at the forefront. And I feel like if you were just watching this movie one time through, you would kind of miss it. Like you wouldn't really see it as well. But this was based on the story, an essay from Thomas de Quincey in the 18th century called The Three Sorrows, which were each one, the three mothers have their name, right? I had this pulled up. Three mothers, powerful witches, Mater Tenebrarum, the mother of darkness, Mater Lacrimarium, the mother of tears, and Mother Suspirium, mother of sighs. So this is supposed to be Marcos, or Helena Marcos is leader of the witches and this dance academy. She's leading this coven, and she's supposed to be the mother of sighs.
Now, so you're saying this is not like based on some 1,000-year-old
ancient prophecies, yes, because there's three mothers and three goddesses in a lot of folklore and mythology that does date back to ancient Egypt, Greek mythology, things like that. The mother is the three goddesses are usually the maiden, the mother, and the crone, or someone somewhat separate, representing those three parts of a woman's life, or the goddess, different goddesses that represent the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So you see that three mothers theme come up a lot in fairy tale, folklore, and mythology.
Got you. So it's kind of got some roots in something, but it's not taken directly from ancient folklore or anything like that. So
yeah, it's fairly recent.
Yeah. So we mentioned it. There's a trilogy of these. So the other two mothers are mentioned in the other two movies. They're not on our list. So we won't go too far into those unless you've got a couple facts that you want to rip off about those. You got anything for those?
That's pretty much the gist of it, as it was taken from that and inspired this movie. And a true story about was it one of the co-writers of the script. She makes a little cameo appearance in the movie as well. She had a grandmother that went to a boarding school, Daria Nicolodi.
Yes.
Yeah, she had a grandmother that went to a boarding school, and apparently there were witches practicing black magic at this boarding school, and it was discovered. Now, I really question that. I really question, what does that mean? Because if you look back that far and someone's accused of quote unquote black magic and that they're performing in a school, you're just like, well, what were they just kind of reading tarot cards in the basement? Or what does that mean exactly? What is the black magic that they discovered they were doing? But anyway, that inspired the story of, this movie, of making a dance school, and it turns out that it's run by witches, and they need these young women to power and fuel their power.
So at this point in the movie, this is when I get to Dr. Mandel and Professor Milius. And that's when you get the background on Helena Marcos.
Yeah.
She's the founder of the Academy. So
yeah. And we haven't seen her at all.
Exactly. So we find out the info on her. We find out that this place is a coven, and it's got a dark history and a connection to witchcraft. Like I said, not your friendly witches. These are the vengeful. They're out to get you. And this is when she also overhears. Or do you want to skip over we're not going to skip over the therapist part, because.
Well, the one thing I wrote in my notes from that scene is doctor-patient confidentiality.
Right?
Is that a thing? He's kind of telling her everything. He's like, oh, well, actually, Sarah was a patient of mine. And let me tell you all of these delusions she had about witches, and starts just telling her everything. And I'm like, we don't know Sarah's dead at this point. So I guess it's just it moves the story along. You kind of need it, I guess. But I'm like, this is probably a pretty big no-no. Therapists shouldn't be telling people what you say in your sessions.
I thought the same thing. Can't do that. Maybe it's a different place. Maybe in Germany they didn't have to worry about that. I don't know. Maybe you can just tell anybody.
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine going down the street. Hey, I heard you got hemorrhoids last week. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, this is important to the story.
Yeah.
We need to know that. Okay. Yeah.
So now I think we're at the where she finds the hidden passages. She hears their plan. She knows now they're witches.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're coming to the climax. She confronts Helena Marcos. She confronts her, and who is the head witch.
Mm-hmm.
How does that go? How does that go for her?
Yeah. Well, makeup is pretty good, I think. I mean, I had to write that down, for this time period, and without kind of the more modern advances in the movie making that we've had. She's pretty. She looks pretty ancient.
Big time.
Pretty old looking there. And I don't know. Do you think they were using Sarah's body for the ritual, that she had been chosen to be the one?
I think so. It's not specifically stated, but I believe that would be my guess. It would be my guess it was Sarah's body for the ritual itself. And then this thing, all within like 10 minutes, like this whole thing it collapses, literally.
Yeah, they decide she can overhear them saying, the American girl is next, she's got to go.
Yeah.
And then she kind of backs up into this extra room. She sees Sarah's dead body. She's like, oh, crap, there's my friend. And then she's kind of thrust into this secret hidden room where Helena Marcos is. And the raspy breathing voice that they had heard early in the movie, which we forgot to say, the backlighting, that scene where they're all sleeping in the ballroom because of the maggots. And we did hear that raspy voice. Now, why is she in that scene? I'm still not sure, because she obviously has her own hidden bedroom down in some secret area. And when they're all sleeping in the ballroom and they've got these sheets up and there's this eerie red backlighting, for some reason, Helena Marcos goes and sleeps with these girls in the ballroom, but you never see her. So you hear Sarah kind of saying like, that's her. She's the head of the school. And I think something is, you hear that snoring that she's doing and something's off about it. And I'm like, why is she there? I'm not really sure. But
maybe she's scoping out. Maybe she was looking at her.
Maybe.
Select. I think she was probably, because if you think about it, that was when they're all in the same place together.
Yeah.
Her easiest chance and her sleep. So it's creepy like that. So where were we though? Because you know what I want to touch on is Jessica Harper herself playing Susie and speaking English. Now we had an English dub of the entire movie, but all those actors and actresses, they didn't speak English. There was multiple languages involved on the set. A lot of times when they had the dialogue between themselves, Jessica Harper didn't speak German, so she was just getting talked to. They would use their feet to tap and give the cues of, all right, it's your turn to talk. So on the set, that since they did know that it was going to be dubbed, they didn't care about the audio around them. So there would be hammering going on. So it'd be people talking off screen all the time. So you're acting scenes. A lot of those scenes had no audio that was used that was not dubbed later. That's to me. If you watch that movie, you know that, and you watch the interactions between actors. It's incredible that they figured out the language barrier, because I don't know how.
Yeah. And that takes a really skilled actor to be able to respond appropriately, because I have a little experience in acting, and I know a lot of the training that you do is like active listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would have our director, we had our lines memorized, but they would have us switch parts in rehearsal so that we had to practice not just reciting our lines or our part, but being active listening to what the other character is saying to you. So if she can't even understand what they're saying, or they're just having to kind of give her a cue, like, okay, now talk, she's got to somehow act like she totally understood what this other person said to her and respond and react appropriately. That's tough.
That's to me, that's an Oscar award-winning performance there, then, right? Like that should be.
Could be.
Well, we're going to talk about what I think would be an Oscar award performance in the next movie. But let's finish this off first, because now we're at the climax. We have a battle. She stabs Helena Marcos.
Yeah.
Catches on fire.
Yeah.
Susie
it's one of those like wrap it up tight and tidy.
Yeah.
You think for a second, how in the world is she going to get out of there alive? And how is she going to kind of maybe defeat these witches, like get ahead of it? But it all happens like in one fail swoop. She kills the head witch and
Yep.
it sends the entire dance studio aflame. Like
And
all the other witches can't live without her. So
in about that time frame that we talk about it, that was it. It's literally boom, the climax, the witches die, burns up, Susie walks out, the film's over. You see Susie walking away and the dance academy's burned up.
yep. If you went to the bathroom during that time, you would be like, wait, what just happened?
What were your final thoughts on this first movie without seeing the second one? I almost said part two. It's not part two. It's not a remake. We'll get to that. But what were your final thoughts of what you saw here in Suspiria 1977?
Well, my thoughts always go back to the perception of witches. And like, obviously, a lot of folklore and a lot of descriptions of witches over the last few centuries have been negative because it's really about like, well, they're in league with the devil. They are satanic. They are dabbling in powers that come from evil places. They do harm. They eat babies. All of these kinds of things that came from like, you know, the campaign to deflect people from witches. But I go back to like when you hear certain folklore about, for example, Baba Yaga that comes from Scandinavian folklore. She has a lot of folklore about her that's kind of dark and creepy and eerie, almost Hansel and Gretel, eats the children kind of vibes. But then there's stories about her where she's the fairy godmother in the story. She's the one that helps out the heroine. In the story of Vasilisa, she still lives, she flies through the night in her cauldron. She lives in a house in the woods on chicken legs, and she has a fence made of skeletons and bones. She's still got that going on, but in the story, she's the one that helps her out. And I have to go back to that and remind people that, yeah, there was a lot of propaganda against witchcraft and against witches. But I ask myself in this movie, in the 1977 version, I ask, what was the purpose of the killing? Like, what was the motive here? Was it just to make a good story? Was it just to make us go, oh, and have a good horror film? Or, you know, was there like something else, another level to it that we just haven't explored or this movie didn't touch on yet? And that's why I really loved going to the 2018 version and being able to see that there is a lot more going on here. Like, there are such other layers. It's not just what we see on the surface, right?
I think you hit it all right there. And I think Dario Argento putting this film together. Dario is the Italian Alfred Hitchcock, but way more blood and guts. Like, that's what he is.
Yeah,
so
not as subtle.
There's definitely intention in the story and what he was laying out, and there's definitely intention in the design of the movie that he put together, because those quick scenes and those shots and the way that it made you feel unsettled, the Goblin soundtrack, everything was so plotted out that it did give you an experience. That movie is an experience when you watch it. You can tell there's something special going on, even though you don't know what the fuck you're looking at. Like, you're watching it, you're like, what am I watching? Okay, it's special. Like, it feels special.
Yeah. The lighting, the green and red lighting that's unnatural. Like, obviously she's not sitting there in her bedroom in red light. That wouldn't be a natural light to be in. But the movie was like, no, you're in a different world here. We're going to make it really feel like a different world. So there's going to be green light and there's going to be red light. And it's brazen and bright.
Let's get to the 2018 remake.
Oh my gosh. So
I've already messed up and called it a remake. It's not a remake. I just messed up.
No. Yeah, we were discussing this before we hit record, that the director, Dario, said, when they said, hey, they're remaking your movie, he was like, no. That movie was made exactly the way it should have been made. I'm paraphrasing. This isn't a direct quote. But he was like, hey, I made it exactly the way this movie needed to be made. if they make it exactly the same way, it's a copy. And if they don't make it the exact same way, it's a completely new movie. So he would not even call it a remake.
Now, Luca Guadagnino, I hope I don't know if I'm getting that right. My tongue doesn't work that way sometimes. But Luca, he's the director of the 2018 version, and he even said this is not a remake. This was actually, this project itself was even in development before this and scrapped basically, or put to the side before it got picked up. And he calls this thing basically his interpretation, a reinterpretation, a reimagining.
Reimagined, yeah. And it is.
It is. But it's also a remake. It's the same movie.
It's the same character names, the same basic plot. It's just not a shot for shot or script. It's not the same script, but I think they did a very good job having the same feeling and vibes while also updating it.
And you're absolutely right. And there's a lot of work that went into this movie. Like Dakota Johnson herself.
Whew.
I'm a huge Dakota Johnson fan. You know what? There's two people in this movie that I am like huge fans of. We'll watch anything. Three actually. We'll get to those. But
right out the gate, Pat, played by Chloe Grace, right?
Yep.
From Dark Shadows, from Carrie. I love her. She's amazing.
Dakota Johnson put in years of learning dance for this role, and it shows. I'll go ahead and tell you my other two. Mia Goth. I love Mia Goth. I watch anything she's in. She plays Sarah in this. And then you got Tilda Swinton. Oh my God.
We could talk about her all day.
We'll get to Tilda because Tilda played 3 roles in this movie.
I know. And I didn't know that until after I'd finished watching it. I was like, something is, yeah. So I kept suspecting something throughout the movie. Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little more. But this movie, I mean, right off the beginning, it's almost like you said, it's not shot scene for scene, but there's the same vibe. You go, Susie Banyan arriving in Berlin. Is it raining? It's raining too, right?
Yep.
Raining. She gets to the academy. Like it's the same type of stuff. It's got the same feel, same vibe, same atmosphere.
And I think they use the mirrors too. I wrote down mirrors because when she gets into the dance academy, there's a big mirror. Like everywhere you go, there's mirrors that it shows you the reflection of her in, almost like in The Secret Window.
Oh yeah.
If you remember, they would go into the mirror and show the reflection of the main character. And that was kind of foreshadowing as to like, you're not really in the real world because we're watching all of this from the mirror. So it gives you that vibe of like going into a different world. We are Alice in the Looking Glass, some of the inspirations for this movie, the original movie. Like you're in a different world here. This isn't just regular life.
No, we see the mirrors come into play later too, quite a few times. Like with whew, that's disturbing. That's just disturbing if you ask me. As the original, like it's got its own scenes that you're like, yep, that's sticking with me for a while. Like you think that.
Yeah. I mean, you update it with technology and movie making magic that they have been able to, create over the years, the gap of difference.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in some of the 1977 scenes, you're like, oh, they probably cut a pig. Like, you can kind of tell that, whatever, but you're imagining it and it's gruesome nonetheless.
You know what? That's a great point because the blood in the 1977 is bright red. It's you're like, that's not blood.
Orange.
Yeah, it's not a blood color. So that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Were you finish that point up?
Well, just that, then when we see some of the scenes, like the very first is it Olga? When Olga I doesn't quite die, but what happens to her in the mirror scene
Yeah.
is like I'll be honest, I had to shut my eyes for most
Yeah.
of it. I kept trying to watch it and I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot watch this. It was too real.
That scene's crazy. That's when Dakota Johnson Susie is dancing too. So it's this
Yes.
transfer of energy, transfer of something
Yes. And that's
going.
when you kind of get a foreshadowing because it's not really the dance instructors or they talk about Marco's energy. They're like, she has an energy because when she walks in the room, all the dancers are like, oh, like, oh, what do you want me to do? Like, I just want to impress you. And she has this energy. And she's very nurturing and sweet, but also like tough and very stern. It's kind of, yeah, it's a whole thing. But it's not them that seem to be doing this to Olga. When Susie starts her dance, she's doing this amazing like movement dance. And as she's moving, it's causing Olga in a different part of the school to go through this horrific thing that she's going through. Yeah. But it's Susie that seems to be causing it, right?
Yeah, but you don't, and we see more of this later. So Susie even says, I think, is this the time that she passes out? And she even says that doesn't normally happen or something. You can tell there's something different going on with Susie herself because her energy, something's drained. She's thinking, she even says it, like I said, this doesn't normally happen. There's something along those lines, and she can tell herself that it's weird. There's something different here.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that whole scene. Well, I wanted to make a note too before that scene. You hear well, first of all, I'm like, wait, go back. Hold on. There's a lot of really cool conversations going on throughout the movie between the witches. The opening scene is Pat, but she's talking to the therapist, the analyst, the psychoanalyst. And they are very upfront about it being witches right from the very beginning.
Yes.
Where that is the hidden thing you find out in the original. You don't know what's going on. You just know something is. And so the reveal is this dance school is run by witches. But in this one, I noticed, I'm like, right out the gate, Pat is like, they're witches.
Yeah.
And she just says it. And, she's upfront about it. And they're witches because you see the scene where the witches are all talking around the table. They have a vote. They're talking and they're discussing like Sarah and some of the students. And they're saying like, oh, Sarah, she really loves it here. She really wants to belong here. We really feel like she belongs here. And I think there's like a theme there about belonging, about coming to this school and feeling like you are welcomed here and embraced here. So it's a little bit different feeling.
It's almost cultish. It's almost a cultish type feel.
Yeah. Kind of going back to Midsummer, last week's episode we did, which was like, this gives the main character the sense of like, I finally made it to the place I belong.
Yeah. Yeah. The 2018 movie Suspiria is definitely multi-layered. It's got way more layers than the 1977 version, and this is one of them that's really come. This is one that's really seen right here, and let's get to right after the Olga's contortion scene.
Yeah.
Because like you said, she's not dead because we find out later that this was
they need her.
Gruesome display of witchcraft with some bone cracking. Like it never ended. Like like you said, you had to close your eyes. And then we went from that to, I believe, that was part of Susie's first dance. That was her first dance for the studio, right?
Yeah, she claimed she can dance the lead to the
Volk.
Volk. Yeah.
I love that. Volk. And then we get to the Volk performance, which is the last performance of Volk.
Oh,
Well,
I
we got
love dance so much. I always wished that I could have been a dancer, but I never
you still can.
did.
You still can. It's not too late. It's not too late.
I dance in my own special way. It's just
There you
not
go.
very good looking, but okay.
Are we at the Dr. Klimperer? Because
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about him. I was immediately like, something's not quite right. He's maybe he's played by a younger man, maybe, because I just thought there's just something like you could kind of just tell that he was wearing makeup to be older,
yep.
but I also second guessed that all the whole time. I'm like, well, maybe not. Maybe this is just an older gentleman playing this role or whatever. Yeah,
Noel?
I know. I am thrilled to be both right and wrong about that.
So Dr. Klimperer is played by Lutz Ebersdorf. That's the name.
Yeah.
When the movie released, they built this whole story about this guy named Lutz Ebersdorf. To the point to where they even said they were even going to say that he had passed away before the film came out.
Oh.
Then that's when Tilda Swinton said, that's kind of too far. Let's just tell him it's me. I couldn't believe it either, that Tilda Swinton is Dr. Klimper. Director Luca, put Tilda in the role because it was a woman-centric movie, and he felt like a woman should play that man's role. It should be in there, and Tilda pulled it off. The makeup,
I love it.
the set didn't even know. The only people who really knew were the main actors, Dakota, and it was the main actors who knew what was going on. And to me, that is an incredible thing to pull off. The last name Ebersdorf is, here's the meaning for it. Eber means boar or swine. And dwarf means town. So you've got Swinetown, Swinton.
Got it.
It's Tilda's last name.
That
the only character. We'll get to that other character that Tilda plays. This really is an Oscar performance. Like, how do you do this? But
I know. And how did the makeup team not win an Oscar for this?
Right.
How did they not get nominated for, costume, makeup, special effects category?
I mean, it's incredible that Tilda pulled this off. Tilda can pull off anything. I love Tilda movies.
Yep,
Everything
she's
incredible.
incredible.
I'll watch.
Yeah. But in getting to his story, I like that they did this whole backstory of him having been, what happened to him during the Holocaust, and his wife went missing, and they brought a lot more into this movie. The radio was on a lot, talking about the war and the wall in Berlin, and the political kind of upheaval that was going on at that time.
What was it? The RAF, passenger, the flights, the hostage situation. That's been weaved in and out. Like I said, this thing is multi-layered. Like, it's got a lot of layers, a lot of different storytelling going on. And I think I interrupted what you were saying there. So don't let me do that.
I don't remember what I was saying, but I was just saying that I wrote that from the beginning, that you kind of see that as Pat was a political activist. She was involved in all of that. So you got all of that into it as well. And then you get all of Dr. Kemper's backstory, which has a purpose as well. You get to the end, you find out why that was all important. But so I liked that aspect of it too. That was all in there.
We hadn't even talked about how this movie's broke down by acts too. It's like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And on top of that, there's different colors variations with those graphics. Subtitles themselves have different colors. It's like blue and red to distinguish between the different languages being spoken. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different stuff going on, but it was broken down into a different way than the 1977 version. But I did like the axe. Um, it's like a book on film. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a play,
Yeah,
kind of like that aspect again of the original, kind of almost behaving like a play. Like everything was set, everything looked like a set. It didn't look like they were trying to make it real. And so it's kind of bringing that aspect into it as well. Like it's a play. You're just watching a play. You're watching something that's happening in real time.
let me ask you about that, about the set designs and anything. Did you notice? Because like in Midsummer and Wicker Man, we saw symbols, we saw pagan stuff, we saw little signs to things. Did you catch any of that in either of these movies? I didn't even ask you about
Not
them.
as much as, and I was really looking too. I was like, I wonder if I'm going to see anything that stands out to me as like a connection. Obviously, in the original, there was like the evil eye and the triangle. You could see certain things that were definitely connected to what we consider witchcraft. In the end scene, when all of those orb crystals are rolling across the floor, I noticed that, and I was like, well, I don't know anybody who's practicing energy work or witchcraft that doesn't have some crystal orbs in their workspaces. But
Interesting.
yeah, I noticed more about little subtle nods. Like there's the blue iris that you turn to get to the secret passages in the original, and then in the newer film, they reference one of the ballrooms is called the Iris Ballroom.
Ah, nice. See, I didn't catch that. Look at you. I didn't catch that. I love that. Now,
Yeah,
the secret passage thing, though, that's when now that's where we are pretty much in the movie. This is when Sarah gets curious, played by Mia
mm-hmm.
Goth. I love Mia Goth.
Mm-hmm.
She's investigating she thinks she knows. Did I jump over anything? Because this is a point in the movie when she's looking around for Patricia, really.
Yeah,
Like, I think she's still
yeah,
there, and she starts counting. This is the same. This is the same thing that happened in the 1977 version, where they're counting the steps, saying, "Wait a minute, there's a secret hallway." Mia Goth, Sarah does the same thing here, and you see her counting the steps, and then she starts counting them down. This is a long anticipation of just uneasiness when she's walking through these places, and she she finds what she's looking for, and I don't think she wanted to.
yeah. And it's interesting that she's the one that goes to the therapist
Yeah,
to say something's not right. I don't know what I should do, and he is talking to her. When in the original, it's kind of Sarah she's looking for, and it's
yep.
Susie that asks the therapist. So you kind of get a switch roles in how they're all participating. Yeah.
All at the same time, you got the coven. They're out there preparing. They're trying to get ready. What is it? Basically, to transfer Helena Marcos' soul, I guess, if it was a soul, into Susie.
Yeah.
Like that's what's going to happen, really, right?
Yeah, but I was confused about characters because Marcos is what they were calling Helena, the younger
Yeah.
dance, that head of the dance that everyone was so infatuated with. But the older Marcos is the one you don't see until the end, and
Yeah.
it's like there's two different, and they're all voting on who is going to be the leader. So they vote on the older mother. Do they call her Mother Marcos? I think
think
that's
so.
what they
Mother
call her.
Marcos and Helena Marcos.
Yeah.
Is that the same person? No, I don't know.
Yeah, they're different people because there's a portrait in there when the scene you're talking about, when Sarah comes in and she's overhearing conversations in the other room and she takes an artifact off the shelf.
Yeah,
And there's a portrait there of Helena Marcos, the young,
that's
and
right.
the older Mother Marcos.
You're right, and it's got the hair on it and whatever that is. Like it's
Yeah, so they kind of take the character that was just one character and they split it into two. people.
Interesting. I don't think I picked up on that. Like that's
Yeah,
interesting.
because I was getting confused. I'm like, wait, they keep calling her Marcos. Is she Helena Marcos or is it? So then who's the mother? Like, it was confusing because I was still stuck on what was going on in the original.
Now, this is only about halfway through this movie now.
I know.
So this
So
movie
much.
is quite a bit longer than the first one. So this is only halfway through the 2018 version, but it never really lacks to me. It never really
No.
slow down moment. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it.
Yeah. It moves and there's just a lot of moving pieces going on. What's going on with the girls? What's going on with the relationship between Susie and Helena Marcos? There's kind of this mentorship, taking her under her wing. She's obviously like spending some special attention and time with her on helping her learn the Volk dance.
Yes.
And also we find out preparing her for the ritual of giving up her body to Mother Marcos, who's going to take over her body.
Now, she accelerates very fast at some of these dances. Like you got the jump. Remember the jump she's doing?
Yes.
She's getting the energy from the other girls. It's
yeah, because they're collapsing and they're having seizures and they're like stuff that's going on with them. Yeah. So
this is all part of the witches' plans, I'm guessing. Like this is part of what they want to do. They know that she's the one, and they're trying to get her as strong as possible for the ritual. Did I take that right? Is that what's happening here from a witch's standpoint?
Well, like I said, a lot of it is like, it's meant to be a fairy tale. It's meant to be fiction, but it's taking from what most of us who do practice energy work or witchcraft or anything you want to call it, even religious fervor, but like what we experience with that energy they keep talking about, that to me is very real. And I don't think there's anyone on the planet who cannot sense and feel energy in some sense, in some way. I mean, when you walk into a room, when the energy is high or the vibe is high. I mean, we talked about it with the Fresh King Benjamin and when you get on stage and you're a comedian, you can sense the energy of the audience and you know what you're getting back from them. And, that exchange of energy is not a make-believe or fictional thing. So being able to take it into a fictional movie in a sense and to be like, okay, so what would that look like or be like if we had this coven of witches who then could kind of harness the power of these young dancers? This is maybe what it would look like.
I mean, definitely this is what it would look like if you ask me, but I'm not, I haven't been into these covens before, so I'm not too familiar.
Yeah. Well, honestly, and I wrote down too what the Dr. Kemper says is that, he says something about love and manipulation share houses. I wrote that down because that's a good quote. But it was Helena Marcos that says when she takes Susie aside and they're practicing the jumps and stuff, and she says poems, prayers, spells, and even the dance, they're all the same, right? So they're going to do this ritual with dance, but it's going to be no different than someone who writes out a poem or writes out a spell or puts their intention, emotional energy into something. I think that's brilliant. I mean, I think people who do any kind of art anywhere, any form can understand what that's like. You're putting your emotional experience into a projection that's going to go out into the world.
I love that. That's incredible. And then that takes us right here to the dance itself, the Volk dance.
Whew.
Well, they lured Dr. Klemper to the academy. Like they get him in there.
Yeah.
He witnesses some of the evil going on. He already knows. He already suspects because he's talked to Susie and Sarah at this point, I believe. Correct? Yeah. And
Yeah, he's been talking to Sarah. I think he was worried about her because he took the odd object that she stole, took
the
it,
hook.
and yeah, she takes it and he takes it and he's like, I just want you to be careful. I want you to, be careful about this. And he was investigating Pat with her. Like Pat was his client. So he's like, yeah, something's up. Like the girl's disappeared. And kind of like my wife, going back to his personal story, he's invested. He's emotionally invested. He's like, this woman's gone missing. And now Sarah, he goes to see the dance and Sarah's not there. She's not in the dance. So he's got to think something's up.
And you see the dancers also saying, "Where's Sarah? Where's Sarah?" Well, Sarah was out in the not so good place finding Patricia and that other thing without arms and oh my god!
I know. Who do you think that was? I don't know. Maybe that was Olga, right?
Oh.
They pulled Olga in, and she was all distorted, and I couldn't quite tell. I was like, yeah, obviously there's some people in here. And Olga comes back at the end too. So Olga, Pat, and Sarah play a part in the final ritual.
Yeah, and before that though, we get to see the and this is why we've got the red on. We get to see the extravagant costumes, the dance of Volk. I don't know if is this a real dance? Was this something that's performed?
I don't know. I would love to find out. I should have researched that because I just love that. That dance was incredible. I mean, I was mesmerized.
If anybody out there knows if that's real, let us know. I want to know. I want to reenact it. I want to get a reenacting of
See it in person.
The dance of Volk. And here's the thing too, with all the technology, with all the stuff out there in the filmmaking process, there was very little CGI used in this scene. This dance was done by the dancers. Dakota Johnson learned this. It was a production in itself within the movie.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was beautiful.
Amazing. So from what I can tell from Google, it was created just for the movie.
Okay. We're going to redo it anyway. We're going to.
But it was powerful. It was definitely like the contemporary style of dancing with the breathing and the.
Yeah.
Woof. Gives me chills.
It was long. It was. I loved it. It's long. It's a long dance scene.
Yeah, it definitely is a dance that, as you're talking about it in rehearsals too, you can tell that it was a dance created to be a story, to have its own like acts. Like there's the beginning of the dance, and she's talking about leading it up to the end of the dance when they're jumping and all that. Yeah.
And this is Volk. Now this is the dance of death. So you got Susie. This is Susie basically performing, a ritualistic dance, and then it culminates in this big, bloody, chaotic craziness. It's almost like you're watching this scene and you think, after it's all over, you're like, how did I get from that to that? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's insane. What you think about that?
So you're talking about building up to the end?
Yeah. You just, like, if you think about it in just that piece from the start of the dance to the very end.
Oh yeah.
It's like, how did you go from this thing to this? Like, it was bizarre to me. It's bizarre to me if you think about how you got from point A to point B, all the stuff in between.
Well, I can tell you all that thread is definitely Susie. Like, from the very beginning of the movie, and as you follow her story through this is the part where it really differs from the original, because the original, you're experiencing it as a normie, a muggle, if you will.
Muggle.
We're the muggle Susie, and we're going into a dance studio and something's weird. And obviously, I mean, through the whole movie, she's experiencing the same confusion and revulsion and shock as we, the audience, are feeling it. But in the 2018 version, we're experiencing it as a thread through Susie, but it's not the same. It's like, what's up with Susie?
Yeah.
right?
No,
'Cause,
you're right.
you find out at the end there was something the whole time. And I knew there would be some other big reveal because we already revealed that they're witches. That already got revealed early. So there's got to be something else, right?
So tell us right there in the final. This is we're at the final act. Like Susie does reveal her true nature right here.
Yeah.
What is she?
Ooh, she ends up being actually Mother Suspirium. And Mother Marcos has been calling herself Mother Suspirium this whole time. So everyone voted for her, believing she was the mother. But she wasn't.
Not the mother. Not the mama. Remember that? The dinosaur? Not
the mama.
No.
Yeah, she was not. Which, I mean, that's exactly why we were taken through this movie in a different way. Susie was experiencing something else, and it shows those flashbacks and those dream sequences where Susie's like always wanted to go to Berlin, always wanted to be a part of this dance troupe, this specific dance company. It was something she had known from the moment she was born that she had this drive to do, because she wasn't in a ritual that made her Mother Suspirium. It was, she was reincarnated or reborn as Mother Suspirium. And her Amish Mennonite mother was dying on her deathbed and said, I gave birth to the sin, to a mark of sin on this world, or something like that. Right?
Yeah. We didn't even touch that scene, and that's very powerful right there. So it's almost, that's a foreshadow then right there, where she's letting you know, hey, there's something a little bit off. And what about Helena Marcos right there making an appearance, the old shriveled up version?
Oh,
that's Tilda.
Yes, that was, I mean, it's like they went out of their way with costume, makeup, CGI to make her the most grotesque creature I think I've maybe ever seen in a movie ever. Like limbs coming out of parts of her body, tumors. Like you can just,
It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. And thankfully, Susie does her in right here. Yeah. Like she gets rid of her, and that's the big reveal. The twist, as you call it, was that she is Mother Suspirium. Kills Helena Marcos, which is Tilda Swinton right here, and then it's not over. It's not over. You got the aftermath, the epilogue. You also have the appearance of Jessica Harper. From
the original.
Yeah.
Who was Joseph Klemper's wife.
Ankh, I believe.
And yeah.
What an incredible cameo right here, right?
Right. Yeah, that was amazing. And the fact that he gets lured there for this ritual, he's naked and sobbing on the floor. He's going to be sacrificed. I'm sure that's why they brought him there. He was probably going to be another, human sacrifice for this ritual. But he survives.
Yeah.
Because she gets in there and she's like, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. The most bloody, gory scene where this creature of death arrives and just starts bam, bam, bam. Anyone who voted for Marcos, Mother Marcos in the original vote, what you saw earlier in the movie, they get
deleted.
Exploded. Yeah.
Deleted. Just straight, boom, gone. Oh. And Susie erases Dr. Klemperer's memories of the events too.
Yep.
And that's basically it.
Yeah.
Film ends. You got Susie revealing, or Susie talking to Dr. Klemperer about his wife.
Yeah, tells him the story of her death, so that he can have some peace, I guess, about, she wasn't alone. She was surrounded by other women.
Yeah.
She survived, I think, 20 days into when, after they were arrested. And anyway, just kind of this really emotional scene that was actually really Oscar worthy. She's telling her like, I'm here to let you know this is how she died. This is what happened to her, so that you can not worry about it anymore. You don't have to think about it anymore.
And that's almost nice ending. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't know. I mean, at this point, you're like, so, okay, I assume, or at least a lot of people on Reddit that I could see, assume that she's now going to take over the dance, and she's going to be in charge, and she's going to take over the coven, and she's in charge now, and she's wiped out everybody who was not on board.
Yeah, basically.
And yeah, and so it's like this question of like, so is she a good witch or a bad witch? Or like, she the young Helena Marcos, it was clear there was conflict because she didn't like the way things were run, and she didn't like this sacrifice part. She didn't like that someone had to give up. And she's like, we've always been at odds about this. And they had kind of tension about that. So I wonder if the actual Mother Suspirium, if she's going to run this dance studio a different way, or she's going to be the one who is maternal and protects these girls and makes it a safe haven for them instead of doing it like the old lady did.
Now, there's a after credit scene. Did you see that?
I don't know. Did I?
Because in the after credit scene, it's Susie, Dakota Johnson, and she raises her arm in a subtle gesture, and it just makes it leaves the viewers kind of feeling uneasy again. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yeah.
It just adds a new layer of interpretation that you can take from it. But I think it goes to your point here. It leaves it open. It's like, huh. But I like that. I don't mind. I don't like when the movies tell you right out.
Yeah. Kind of like Midsummer. You're not actually sure what's going to happen at the end of it. Like, now what?
Same exact theme and concept right here, because you don't know if she belongs. It's that same sense of belonging. You don't know if she belongs with the witches, just like in Midsummer she belonged with the May Queen. Like,
yeah,
it's yeah, that's a great thing to kind of pick out of that, and another layer. That's just another layer that they added to this movie. What else we got to hit on this? What's your final thoughts on 2018 Suspiria?
Oh, yeah. I keep going back to the theme that we talked about a little bit in last week's episode, Midsummer. It does kind of have that same vibe of like, here was Susie, I guess grew up in a very religious, Mennonite, Amish.
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure which, but house upbringing. And she comes to this dance studio with this same feeling of like belonging. So even as we, the audience, are unsettled by these events happening and we feel like, ooh, or, oh, that's uncomfortable, or like, why is that going on? There's a scene where she goes, she sneaks into a room she's not supposed to be in, and she happens to catch the witches, like, have the police officers or the detectives are like bewitched and in a trance, and they're just like poking fun at them and laughing at them. And that would probably disturb people typically, but Susie just laughs about it. And
That's
she's
true.
like, yeah. So there's this sense that she is not uncomfortable with all of this. She is actually where she's always meant to be. And you get that same theme of belonging in Midsummer, where it's like, yeah, we're all a little uncomfortable with this cult, this witchy evilness going on, but the main character, this is her jam. She's like, I'm home.
That's great. I love that, because it's like, the main characters are they're like, oh yeah, I'm good with this.
Yeah, kind of.
We didn't mention. I got to point out that we talked about the Goblins soundtrack in 1977. Hey, 2018 had Tom York from Radiohead do his first score for a movie, and it was no less uneasy, unsettling. We keep using those words, but it was no less. It was very haunting.
Yeah.
It added to it. It was another depth to the movie, I think. I love Radiohead. I love Tom York. I love what he does.
I knew you would love that. I knew that would be a point you'd have to bring up because, yeah.
Let me tell you, side story. I saw Radiohead. I missed Radiohead in 2002. We bought the tickets so far in advance that we forgot when the concert was. Me and a friend of mine. We woke up, we thought it was this day, and guess what? It was last night. So he gets his mom's credit card and he buys us front row tickets, second row tickets to see Radiohead in Madison Square Garden. So that's where I ended up seeing them, and it ended up working out better. So I got to see that tour. Incredible. It was incredible. Yeah. But Tom York with the score.
Yeah.
Like it just, that along with the visuals, both movies.
Yeah.
Both movies compare, even though it's not a remake, whatever.
No, but I think, I was set up to kind of think it might not be good or something when I heard what the director had said about, it not being a remake, and I was like, okay, well then I guess we'll just see what happens when I watch it. Like what is it going to be? But I truly believe that it is the best kind of remake if it was a remake. It's like we did not try to mess with what it was originally. We just tried to make it its kind of own new thing, come to the table with something new, right?
I mean, they added an hour. They added an hour of extra content is what I think. It's
yeah, for sure. I went to bed late that night.
Yeah, right.
With visions of blood and gore in my mind as I rested my head on my little pillow.
That's the best way to go. That's how I go every night. So,
well, next week we have much tamer witch movies. We've been doing some horror, some really like out there, but the next two on the list are my picks, and I'm a little bit more of the family friendly or subtle witch movies. Great movies nonetheless, though. I'm really excited to talk about them.
I can't wait to do that.
Wow, that is going to be two movies that are going to be really tough to pick. The old original Suspiria and the newer made one.
You know what? That was, like I said, that was one of my first times one of my first times seeing the older 1977 Suspiria, because it's so hard to find. I feel like when Amazon put out the newer one, that they tried to erase that old one, because all the free streaming services out there, it would say, yeah, they have it, and you look, it's not there. So
yeah, it definitely deserves its due.
I mean, Amazon, don't bury that movie. Don't bury that movie. Come on, Amazon.
Yep. It deserves its own place for sure. But remember, you can vote for which one you liked and send those to our socials. But all that leading up to the event on October 26th at Novel
Daybreak by Crescent Communities is sponsoring the Witch Movie Project live podcast taping and movie screening. If you want tickets to that thing, look around on our social media. You can find out how to get tickets to that. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it.
No, it's going to be amazing. And you can dress up. Come on, ladies. Don your witches and come on out to this.
If you don't dress up, I might not let them in if people don't dress up. I might not.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Good old-fashioned frat party.
I wonder what I'm going to wear. What kind of costume can I pull up? I have to.
We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, I'll have to get it together quick, though, because this is coming up October 26th, once again, at Novel Daybreak by Crescent Communities. Love all the people over there. You got Max, Randy, you got Esther, Sigifredo. I got his name right, I think. Please tell me I got his name right out there. I love that name. I love all of them people over there.
They're amazing.
We can't wait to get over there and do that. And also, we can't forget one of our sponsors. It's Pure Sweat and Float Studio at South Jordan. Go to puresweatstudios.com or follow them on social media at Pure Sweat South Jordan.
Yep.
What else we got this week? Is that it?
That and Lift Cake Parties is helping us plan this event, so let's not forget to mention them.
Lift cake parties. I love Carla and all she does. This thing's gonna be incredible. It's gonna get
It's gonna get big.
over there. It's gonna be
We're
crazy.
gonna be turning people away at the door.
I hope so. We'll see you guys.